Every second, somewhere in the world, debt is growing. Governments borrow to pay salaries. Families borrow to buy homes. Businesses borrow to survive crises. Debt has become the invisible engine that keeps the global economy running. But what happens when that engine overheats? Today, global debt has reached over $300 trillion. That's more than 3 times the size of the entire world economy. In other words, for every dollar produced, there are $3 owed. And this isn't just numbers on a screen. It's a chain tying nations, companies, and families to a cycle that seems impossible to break. When debt grows faster than wealth, history shows us that collapse is only a matter of time. In this video, we'll explore how the world drowned in debt, who benefits from this system, and what could happen when the bubble finally bursts. Because one truth is unavoidable: debt cannot grow forever, and when it stops, the world will face consequences we're not ready for. Debt wasn't always seen as dangerous. In fact, it built the modern world. After World War II, governments used debt to rebuild cities, industries, and infrastructure. Borrowing fueled growth, jobs, and prosperity. For decades, this seemed like the perfect system. But starting in the 1970s, the system changed. With the end of the gold standard, money itself no longer had a limit. Governments realized they could print money and issue debt almost without restriction. Banks joined the game, expanding credit to families and businesses. Mortgages, credit cards, and corporate loans spread everywhere. People no longer waited to save. They bought now and paid later. In the 1980s and 1990s, globalization amplified the cycle. Developing nations borrowed billions to build infrastructure, often at unsustainable interest rates. Financial markets created complex instruments that multiplied debt even further. Derivatives, bonds, and swaps that only specialists understood. By the 2008 crisis, the world was already addicted to debt. Instead of reducing it, central banks solved the collapse by creating even more debt. Interest rates dropped, money flooded the system, and borrowing became cheaper than ever. That's how we reached today's staggering figure: $300 trillion. The world didn't suddenly choose debt. It slowly sank into it, one loan, one bailout, one crisis at a time. If debt is so dangerous, why does it keep growing? Because someone always benefits. Governments borrow to avoid raising taxes and to promise prosperity today, leaving the bill for tomorrow. Politicians gain votes, but citizens inherit debt. Banks benefit by charging interest on every loan. The more people borrow, the more banks earn. And when borrowers can't pay, governments often bail banks out, ensuring the system survives. Corporations borrow to expand operations and buy back their own stock, inflating prices. Shareholders and executives win, while long-term stability is sacrificed. Even ordinary citizens are caught in the cycle. Easy credit gives the illusion of wealth: bigger homes, new cars, vacations. But the hidden cost is a lifetime of repayments and vulnerability to crises. Debt creates winners in the short term, but losers in the long term. The profits are immediate, but the pain is delayed. And history shows us that when the bill finally arrives, it's ordinary people who suffer most. So how do we know when debt becomes a danger instead of a tool? The signs are already here. First, interest payments alone are swallowing government budgets. In the US, debt interest costs hundreds of billions per year, more than defense or education. Second, households are more fragile than ever. In many countries, families owe more than they earn in a year. A single job loss can mean financial disaster. Third, developing nations face a trap. To pay old debt, they borrow new money, sinking deeper every cycle. Some already spend more on interest than on healthcare or schools. Fourth, inflation. When central banks print money to solve debt, prices rise. Ordinary citizens see their purchasing power vanish while the wealthy protect themselves with assets. These warning signs are not abstract. They mean a growing part of every society works just to pay for the past, instead of investing in the future. Imagine the moment debt stops being manageable. It could start with a government default, a country simply unable to pay its creditors. Instantly, investors panic. Interest rates spike. Banks freeze lending. Companies relying on cheap credit collapse. Workers lose jobs. Families can't pay mortgages. The shock spreads across borders like falling dominoes. In extreme cases, currencies collapse under the weight of debt. Hyperinflation takes over. People abandon money and return to barter, gold, or digital alternatives. History has seen this before. Argentina, Greece, Zimbabwe, Weimar Germany, all were drowned by debt. And each collapse left a trail of unemployment, poverty, and political chaos. The world today is more interconnected than ever. If a large economy like the US, China, or the EU were to break under debt, the entire global system would tremble. Is there a way out of this ocean of debt? Some argue for austerity, cut spending, raise taxes, and slowly reduce debt. But history shows austerity often brings political unrest and economic stagnation. Others propose growth, invest in innovation, technology, and infrastructure, hoping new wealth will outpace old debt. This is ideal, but risky in a slowing global economy. Some radical voices suggest debt cancellation, a jubilee, wiping out what cannot be paid. This idea is ancient, but in a globalized system, it risks massive chaos. Another possibility is shifting to new systems, digital currencies, stronger regulations, or global cooperation to restructure debt. But cooperation requires trust, something in short supply today. In the end, no solution is painless. Every path requires sacrifice, either today or tomorrow. The real question is, will leaders act in time, or wait until the storm breaks? Debt built the modern world, but it could also destroy it. From ancient empires to modern superpowers, debt has always been a double-edged sword. It funds prosperity, but too much of it brings collapse. Today, the world is drowning in debt like never before. The warnings are clear. The question isn't if this system will break, but when. For individuals, the lesson is simple. Don't trust that debt will always be manageable. Diversify, prepare, and avoid the illusion of endless borrowing. For nations, the challenge is greater. Will they confront the problem or keep kicking the can down the road? The history of debt is the history of humanity. Promises made, promises broken. And unless the cycle changes, the next great collapse may already be on the horizon.